Much of the anxiety around the situation at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant is, of course, due to the artillery shells and the rockets that have damaged a significant portion of the buildings on that premises. However, I think it's worth noting that this particular plant was built in the mid-'80s and the early '90s, and was designed to sustain seismic events, that's earthquakes, and the reinforced concrete that supports the building would take essentially a hell of a lot of damage in order to actually destroy it. So the biggest issue right now, which that report identifies, that the international community identifies, is the loss of power supply to that particular plant. Of course, we've seen as recently as just a few days ago when the final reserve line that provides electricity to the plant was actually had to be turned off due to the fighting. Now, all of this just goes to show why there is a continued call from the IAEA and the UN for a safety zone. And as we heard this morning, the Ukrainian side does seem to agree that a safety zone is required in that particular area of that in that particular city in order to cease any kind of hostilities, while the Ukrainians and the Russians continue to blame each other over who is shelling whom. And the only way to kind of ease that anxiety is if that fighting around that plant completely stops. We have heard from the Ukrainian atomic power operator, which is called Energoatom, about this shutdown of that nuclear reactor. This does come after days of fighting in that city of Enerhodar and the city just across the Dnieper River called Nikopol. In fact, last night there was reported shelling taking place over there. So the situation over there has been quite volatile over the past several days, as we've been reporting. In fact, in Enerhodar, which is where the 900 plus Ukrainian nuclear plant workers do reside in, we have heard from, in fact, last night there was reported shelling taking place over there. So the situation over there has been quite volatile over the past several days, as we've been reporting. In fact, in Enerhodar, which is where the 900 plus Ukrainian nuclear plant workers do reside in, was under a complete blackout due to the fighting, due to continuous shelling, while the Ukrainians and the Russians continue to blame each other. But I think it's worth noting, Adnan, that we have not heard yet from the IAEA about this shutdown. We are waiting comment from them. However, they are expected to continue to call for the establishment of a safety zone, as they have over the past week, in order to completely cease any kind of fighting in that region, in order to avoid a nuclear catastrophe, in their words. The details of how many troops are on the ground is limited to us at the moment, but the Ukrainians continue to claim that their push has been successful on those front lines, which in the counteroffensive, which just began about a week and a half ago. And this is indeed a significant progress into this area, which the Ukrainians seem determined to win back from the Russians. Now, they have, as you mentioned already, they have regained territory in the south and the east of the western bank of the Dnieper River. Now, this is a particularly important counteroffensive for the Ukrainians, especially as they remain determined to push onto that Kherson region and reclaim all this territory again. The Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, has said that once again, the Ukrainian flags are returning to the place that they belong. And of course, all of this is especially important because the Russians have essentially occupied that Kherson region since the beginning of the war. We have heard reports from the TASS news agency, that's the Russian state media outlets, saying that the planned referendums in that Kherson region has been temporarily paused due to what they say is a security situation. So with this rapid advance of the counteroffensive, it does show that the scales are somewhat tipped on the side of the Ukrainians at the moment.